Chapters 28. As we moved out through the town, it was empty in the rain and the dark, except for columns of troops and guns that were going through the main street. There were many trucks, too, and some carts going through on other streets and converging on the main road. When we were out past the tanneries onto the main road, the troops, the motor trucks, the horse-drawn carts, and the guns were in one wide, slow-moving column. We moved slowly but steadily in the rain, the radiator cap of our car almost against the tailboard of a truck that was loaded high, the load covered with wet canvas. Then the truck stopped. The whole column was stopped. It started again, and we went a little farther, then stopped. I got out and walked ahead, going between the trucks and carts and under the wet necks of the horses. The block was farther ahead. I left the road, crossed the ditch on a footboard, and walked along the field beyond the ditch. I could see the stalled column between the trees in the rain as I went forward across from it in the field. I went about a mile. The column did not move, although on the other side, beyond the stalled vehicles, I could see the troops moving. I went back to the cars. This block might extend as far as Udine. Piani was asleep over the wheel. I climbed up beside him and went to sleep too. Several hours later I heard the truck ahead of us grinding into gear. I woke Piani and we started, moving a few yards, then stopping, then going on again. It was still raining. The column stalled again in the night and did not start. I got down and went to see Aimo and Bonello. Bonello had 2 sergeants of engineers on the seat of his car with him. They stiffened when I came up. They were left to do something to a bridge, Bonello said. They can't find their unit, so I gave them a ride. With the Sir Lieutenant's permission. With permission, I said. The lieutenant is an American, Bonello said. He'll give anybody a ride. One of the sergeants smiled. The other asked Bonello if I was an Italian from North or South America. He's not an Italian, he's North American English. The sergeants were polite, but did not believe it. I left him and went back to Aimo. He had 2 girls on the seat with him and was sitting back in the corner and smoking. Barto, I said. He laughed. Talk to them, Tenente, he said. I can't understand them. Hey, he put his hand on the girl's thigh, but squeezed it in a friendly way. The girl drew her shawl tight around her and pushed his hand away. Hey, he said, tell the Tenente your name and what you're doing here. The girl looked at me fiercely. The other girl kept her eyes down. The girl who looked at me said something in a dialect I could not understand a word of. She was plump and dark and looked about 16. Sorella? I asked, and pointed at the other girl. She nodded her head and smiled. All right, I said, and patted her knee. I felt her stiffen away when I touched her. The sister never looked up. She looked perhaps a year younger. Aimo put his hand on the elder girl's thigh, and she pushed it away. He laughed at her. Good man, he pointed at himself. Good man, he pointed at me. Don't you worry. The girl looked at him fiercely. The pair of them were like 2 wild birds. What does she ride with me for if she doesn't like me? Aimo asked. They got right up in the car the minute I motioned to them. He turned to the girl. Don't worry, he said. No danger of blank, using the vulgar word. No place for blank. I could see she understood the word, and that was all. Her eyes looked at him, very scared. She pulled the shawl tight. Car all full, Aimo said. No danger of blank. No place for blank. Every time he said the word, the girl stiffened a little. Then, sitting stiffly and looking at him, she began to cry. I saw her lips working, and then tears came down her plump cheeks. Her sister, not looking up, took her hand, and they sat there together. The older one, who had been so fierce, began to sob. I guess I scared her, Aimo said. I didn't mean to scare her. Bartolomeo brought out his knapsack and cut off 2 pieces of cheese. Here, he said, stop crying. The older girl shook her head and still cried, but the younger girl took the cheese and commenced to eat. After a while, the younger girl gave her sister the 2nd piece of cheese, and they both ate. The older sister still sobbed a little. She'll be all right after a while, Aimo said. An idea came to him. Virgin? He asked the girl next to him. She nodded her head vigorously. Virgin too? He pointed to the sister. Both the girls nodded their heads, and the elder said something in dialect. "That's all right," Bartolomeo said. "That's all right." Both the girls seemed cheered. I left them sitting together with Aimo sitting back in the corner and went back to Piani's car. The column of vehicles did not move, but the troops kept passing alongside. It was still raining hard, and I thought some of the stops in the movement of the column might be from cars with wet wiring. More likely they were from horses or men going to sleep. Still, traffic could tie up in cities when everyone was awake. It was the combination of horse and motor vehicles. They did not help each other any. The peasants' carts did not help much either. Those were a couple of fine girls with Barto. A retreat was no place for two virgins. Real virgins, probably very religious. If there were no war, we would probably all be in bed. In bed I lay me down my head, bed and board, stiff as a board in bed. Catherine was in bed now between two sheets, over her and under her. Which side did she sleep on? Maybe she wasn't asleep. Maybe she was lying thinking about me. Blow, blow, ye western wind. Well, it blew, and it wasn't the small rain, but the big rain down that rained. It rained all night. You knew it rained down that night. Look at it, Christ, that my love were in my arms, and I in my bed again. That my love, Catherine, that my sweet love, Catherine, down might rain. Blow her again to me. Well, we were in it. Everyone was caught in it, and the small rain would not quiet it. Good night, Catherine, I said out loud. I hope you sleep well. If it's too uncomfortable, darling, lie on the other side, I said. I'll get you some cold water. In a little while it will be morning, and then it won't be so bad. I'm sorry he makes you so uncomfortable. Try and go to sleep, sweet. I was asleep all the time, she said. You've been talking in your sleep. Are you all right? Are you really there? Of course I'm here. I wouldn't go away. This doesn't make any difference between us. You're so lovely and sweet. You wouldn't go away in the night, would you? Of course I wouldn't go away. I'm always here. I come whenever you want me. Blank, Piani said. They've started again. I was dopey, I said. I looked at my watch. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I reached back behind the seat for a bottle of the Barbera. You talked out loud, Piani said. I was having a dream in English, I said. The rain was slacking, and we were moving along. Before daylight we were stalled again, and when it was light we were at a little rise in the ground, and I saw the road of the retreat stretched out far ahead. Everything stationary except for the infantry filtering through. We started to move again, but seeing the rate of progress in the daylight, I knew we were going to have to get off that main road some way and go across country if we ever hoped to reach Udine. In the night many peasants had joined the column from the roads of the country, and in the column there were carts loaded with household goods. There were mirrors projecting up between mattresses, and chickens and ducks tied to carts. There was a sewing machine on the cart ahead of us in the rain. They had saved the most valuable things. On some carts the women sat huddled from the rain, and others walked beside the carts, keeping as close to them as they could. There were dogs now in the column, keeping under the wagons as they moved along. The road was muddy. The ditches at the side were high with water, and beyond the trees that lined the road the fields looked too wet and too soggy to try to cross. I got down from the car and worked up the road away, looking for a place where I could see ahead to find a side road we could take across country. I knew there were many side roads, but did not want one that would lead to nothing. I could not remember them because we had always passed them bowling along in the car on the main road, and they all looked much alike. Now I knew we must find one if we hoped to get through. No one knew where the Austrians were, nor how things were going, but I was certain that if the rain should stop and planes come over and get to work on that column, that it would be all over. All that was needed was for a few men to leave their trucks, or a few horses to be killed to tie up completely the movement on the road. The rain was not falling so heavily now, and I thought it might clear. I went ahead along the edge of the road, and when there was a small road that led off to the north between two fields with a hedge of trees on both sides, I thought that we had better take it, and hurried back to the cars. I told Piani to turn off and went back to tell Bonello and Aimo. If it leads nowhere, we can turn around and cut back in, I said. "What about these?" Bonello asked. His 2 sergeants were beside him on the seat. They were unshaven, but still military-looking in the early morning. "They'll be good to push," I said. I went back to Imo and told him we were going to try it across country. "What about my virgin family?" Imo asked. The 2 girls were asleep. "They won't be very useful," I said. "You ought to have someone that could push." "They could go back in the car," Imo said. "There's room in the car." "All right, if you want them," I said. "Pick up somebody with a wide back to push." "Bersaglieri." Imo smiled. "They have the widest backs. They measure them. How do you feel, Tenente?" "Fine. How are you?" "Fine, but very hungry." "There ought to be something up that road, and we will stop and eat. How's your leg, Tenente?" "Fine," I said. Standing on the step and looking up ahead, I could see Piani's car pulling out onto the little side road and starting up it, his car showing through the hedge of bare branches. Bonello turned off and followed him, and then Piani worked his way out, and we followed the 2 ambulances ahead, along the narrow road between hedges. It led to a farmhouse. We found Piani and Bonello stopped in the farmyard. The house was low and long, with a trellis with a grapevine over the door. There was a well in the yard, and Piani was getting up water to fill his radiator. So much going in low gear had boiled it out. The farmhouse was deserted. I looked back down the road. The farmhouse was on a slight elevation above the plain, and we could see over the country, and saw the road, the hedges, the fields, and the line of trees along the main road where the retreat was passing. The 2 sergeants were looking through the house. The girls were awake and looking at the courtyard, the well, and the 2 big ambulances in front of the farmhouse, with 3 drivers at the well. One of the sergeants came out with a clock in his hand. "Put it back," I said. He looked at me, went in the house, and came back without the clock. "Where's your partner?" I asked. "He's gone to the latrine." He got up on the seat of the ambulance. He was afraid we would leave him. "What about breakfast, Tenente?" Bonello asked. "We could eat something. It wouldn't take very long." "Do you think this road going down on the other side will lead to anything?" "Sure." "All right, let's eat." Piani and Bonello went in the house. "Come on," Imo said to the girls. He held his hand to help them down. The older sister shook her head. They were not going into any deserted house. They looked after us. "They're difficult," Imo said. We went into the farmhouse together. It was large and dark, an abandoned feeling. Bonello and Piani were in the kitchen. "There's not much to eat," Piani said. "They've cleaned it out." Bonello sliced a big white cheese on the heavy kitchen table. "Where was the cheese?" "In the cellar. Piani found wine, too, and apples. That's a good breakfast." Piani was taking the wooden cork out of a big wicker-covered wine jug. He tipped it and poured a copper pan full. "It smells all right," he said. "Find some beakers, Barto." The 2 sergeants came in. "Have some cheese, sergeants," Bonello said. "We should go," one of the sergeants said, eating his cheese and drinking a cup of wine. "We'll go, don't worry," Bonello said. "An army travels on its stomach," I said. "What?" asked the sergeant. "It's better to eat." "Yes, but time is precious." "I believe the bastards have eaten already," Piani said. The sergeants looked at him. "They hate it, the lot of us." "You know the road?" one of them asked me. "No," I said. They looked at each other. "We would do best to start," the first one said. "We are starting," I said. I drank another cup of the red wine. It tasted very good after the cheese and apple. "Bring the cheese," I said, and went out. Bonello came out carrying the great jug of wine. "That's too big," I said. He looked at it regretfully. "I guess it is," he said. "Give me the canteens to fill." He filled the canteens, and some of the wine ran out on the stone paving in the courtyard. Then he picked up the wine jug and put it just inside the door. "The Austrians can find it without breaking the door down," he said. "We'll roll," I said. "Piani and I will go ahead." The 2 engineers were already on the seat beside Bonello. The girls were eating cheese and apples. Imo was smoking. We started off down the narrow road. I looked back at the 2 cars coming and the farmhouse. It was a fine, low, solid stone house, and the ironwork of the well was very good. Ahead of us the road was narrow and muddy, and there was a high hedge on either side. Behind, the cars were following closely. Chapter 29. At noon we were stuck in a muddy road about, as nearly as we could figure, 10 kilometers from Udine. The rain had stopped during the forenoon, and 3 times we heard planes coming, seen them pass overhead, watched them go far to the left, and heard them bombing on the main high road. We had worked through a network of secondary roads and had taken many roads that were blind, but had always, by backing up and finding another road, gotten closer to Udine. Now Imo's car, and backing so that we might get out of a blind road, had gotten into the soft earth at the side, and the wheels spinning had dug deeper and deeper, until the car rested on its differential. The thing to do now was to dig out in front of the wheels, put in brush so that the chains could grip, and then push until the car was on the road. We were all down on the road around the car. The 2 sergeants looked at the car and examined the wheels. Then they started off down the road without a word. I went after them. "Come on," I said, "cut some brush." "We have to go," one said. "Get busy," I said, "and cut brush." "We have to go," one said. The other said nothing. They were in a hurry to start. They would not look at me. "I order you to come back to the car and cut brush," I said. The one sergeant turned. "We have to go on. In a little while you will be cut off. You can't order us. You're not our officer." "I order you to cut brush," I said. They turned and started down the road. "Halt," I said. They kept on down the muddy road, the hedge on either side. "I order you to halt," I called. They went a little faster. I opened up my holster, took the pistol, aimed at the one who had talked the most, and fired. I missed, and they both started to run. I shot 3 times and dropped one. The other went through the hedge and was out of sight. I fired at him through the hedge as he ran across the field. The pistol clicked empty, and I put in another clip. I saw it was too far to shoot at the second sergeant. He was far across the field, running, his head held low. I commenced to reload the empty clip. Bonello came up. "Let me go finish him," he said. I handed him the pistol, and he walked down to where the sergeant of engineers lay face down across the road. Bonello leaned over, put the pistol against the man's head, and pulled the trigger. The pistol did not fire. "You have to cock it," I said. He cocked it and fired twice. He took hold of the sergeant's legs and pulled him to the side of the road, so he lay beside the hedge. He came back and handed me the pistol. "The son of a bitch," he said. He looked toward the sergeant. "You see me shoot him, Tenente." "We've got to get the brush quickly," I said. "Did I hit the other one at all?" "I don't think so," Imo said. "He was too far away to hit with a pistol." "The dirty scum," Piani said. "We were all cutting twigs and branches. Everything had been taken out of the car." Bonello was digging out in front at the wheels. When we were ready, Imo started the car and put it into gear. The wheels spun round, throwing brush and mud. Bonello and I pushed until we could feel our joints crack. The car would not move. "Rock her back and forth, Barto," I said. He drove the engine in reverse, then forward. The wheels only dug in deeper. Then the car was resting on the differential again, and the wheels spun freely in the holes they had dug. I straightened up. "We'll try her with a rope," I said. "I don't think it's any use, Tenente. You can't get a straight pull." "We have to try it," I said. "She won't come out any other way." Piani and Bonello's cars could only move straight ahead down the narrow road. We roped both cars together and pulled. The wheels only pulled sideways against the ruts. "It's no good," I shouted. "Stop it." Piani and Bonello got down from their cars and came back. Imo got down. The girls were up the road about 40 yards, sitting on a stone wall. "What do you say, Tenente?" Bonello asked. "We'll dig out and try once more with the brush," I said. I looked down the road. It was my fault. I'd led them up here. The sun was almost out from behind the clouds, and the body of the sergeant lay beside the hedge. "We'll put his coat and cape under," I said. Bonello went to get them. I cut brush, and Imo and Piani dug out in front and between the wheels. I cut the cape, then ripped it in two, and laid it under the wheel in the mud, then piled brush for the wheels to catch. We were ready to start, and Imo got on the seat and started the car. The wheel spun and we pushed and pushed, but it wasn't any use. "It's blanked," I said. "Is there anything you want in the car, Bartho?" Imo climbed up with Bonello, carrying the cheese and 2 bottles of wine and his cape. Bonello, sitting behind the wheel, was looking through the pockets of the sergeant's coat. "Better throw the coat away," I said. "What about Bartho's virgins?" "They can get in the back," Piani said. "I don't think we're going far." I opened the back door of the ambulance. "Come on," I said. "Get in." The 2 girls climbed in and sat in the corner. They seemed to have taken no notice of the shooting. I looked back up the road. The sergeant lay in his dirty, long-sleeved underwear. I got up with Piani and we started. We were going to try to cross the field. When the road entered the field, I got down and walked ahead. If we could get across, there was a road on the other side. We could not get across. It was too soft and muddy for the cars. When they were finally and completely stalled, the wheels dug into the hubs. We left them in the field and started on foot for Udine. When we came to the road which led back toward the main highway, I pointed down it to the 2 girls. "Go down there," I said. "You'll meet people." They looked at me. I took out my pocketbook and gave them each a 10-lira note. "Go down there," I said, pointing. "Friends, family." They did not understand, but they held the money tightly and started down the road. They looked back as though they were afraid I might take the money back. I watched them go down the road, their shawls close around them, looking back apprehensively at us. The 3 drivers were laughing. "How much will you give me to go in that direction, Tenente?" Bonello asked. "They're better off in a bunch of people than alone if they catch them," I said. "Give me 200 lire and I'll walk straight back toward Austria," Bonello said. "They'd take it away from you," Piani said. "Maybe the war will be over," Imo said. We were going up the road as fast as we could. The sun was trying to come through. Beside the road were mulberry trees. Through the trees I could see our 2 big moving vans of cars stuck in the field. Piani looked back too. "They'll have to build a road to get them out," he said. "I wish to Christ we had bicycles," Bonello said. "Do they ride bicycles in America?" Imo asked. "They used to." "Here it is a great thing," Imo said. "A bicycle is a splendid thing." "I wish to Christ we had bicycles," Bonello said. "I'm no walker." "Is that firing?" I asked. I thought I could hear firing a long way away. "I don't know," Imo said. He listened. "I think so," I said. "The first thing we will see will be the cavalry," Piani said. "I don't think they've got any cavalry." "I hope to Christ not," Bonello said. "I don't want to be stuck on a lance by any blank cavalry." "You certainly shot that sergeant, Tenente," Piani said. We were walking fast. "I killed him," Bonello said. "I never killed anybody in this war, and all my life I wanted to kill a sergeant." "You killed him on the sit, all right," Piani said. "He wasn't flying very fast when you killed him." "Never mind, that's one thing I can always remember. I killed that blank of a sergeant." "What will you say in confession?" Imo asked. "I'll say, 'Bless me, Father, I killed a sergeant.'" They all laughed. "He's an anarchist," Piani said. "He doesn't go to church." "Piani's an anarchist too," Bonello said. "Are you really anarchists?" I asked. "No, Tenente, we're socialists. We come from Imola." "Haven't you ever been there?" "No." "By Christ, it's a fine place, Tenente. You come there after the war and we'll show you something." "Are you all socialists?" "Everybody." "Is it a fine town?" "Wonderful. You never saw a town like that." "How did you get to be socialists?" "We're all socialists. Everybody is a socialist. We've always been socialists. You come, Tenente. We'll make you a socialist too." Ahead the road turned off to the left, and there was a little hill and beyond a stone wall, an apple orchard. As the road went uphill, they ceased talking. We walked along together, all going fast against time. Chapter 30. Later we were on a road that led to a river. There was a long line of abandoned trucks and carts on the road leading up to the bridge. No one was in sight. The river was high, and the bridge had been blown up in the center. The stone arch was fallen into the river, and the brown water was going over it. We went on up the bank, looking for a place to cross. Up ahead I knew there was a railway bridge, and I thought we might be able to get across there. The path was wet and muddy. We did not see any troops, only abandoned trucks and stores. Along the river bank there was nothing and no one but the wet brush and muddy ground. We went up to the bank, and finally we saw the railway bridge. "What a beautiful bridge," Imo said. It was a long plain iron bridge across what was usually a dry riverbed. "We'd better hurry and get across before they blow it up," I said. "There's nobody to blow it up," Piani said. "They're all gone." "It's probably mine," Bonello said. "You cross first, Tenente." "Listen to the anarchist," Imo said. "Make him go first." "I'll go," I said. "It won't be mine to blow up with one man." "You see," Piani said, "that is brains." "Why haven't you brains, anarchist?" "If I had brains I wouldn't be here," Bonello said. "That's pretty good, Tenente," Imo said. "That's pretty good," I said. We were close to the bridge now. The sky had clouded over again, and it was raining a little. The bridge looked long and solid. We climbed up the embankment. "Come one at a time," I said, and started across the bridge. I watched the ties and the rails for any tripwires or signs of explosive, but I saw nothing. Down below the gaps in the ties the river ran muddy and fast. Ahead, across the wet countryside, I could see Udine in the rain. Across the bridge I looked back. Just up the river was another bridge. As I watched, a yellow mud-colored motor car crossed it. The sides of the bridge were high, and the body of the car, once on, was out of sight. But I saw the heads of the driver, the man on the seat with him, and the two men on the rear seat. They all wore German helmets. Then the car was over the bridge, and out of sight behind the trees and the abandoned vehicles on the road. I waved to Imo, who was crossing, and to the others to come on. I climbed down and crouched beside the railway embankment. Imo came down with me. "Did you see the car?" I asked. "No, we were watching you." A German staff car crossed on the upper bridge. "A staff car?" "Yes. Holy Mary." The others came, and we all crouched in the mud behind the embankment, looking across the rails at the bridge, the line of trees, the ditch, and the road. "Do you think we're cut off then, Tenente?" "I don't know. All I know is a German staff car went along that road." "You don't feel funny, Tenente? You haven't got strange feelings in the head?" "Don't be funny, Bonello." "What about a drink?" Piani said. "If we're cut off, we might as well have a drink." He unhooked his canteen and uncorked it. "Look, look," Imo said, and pointed toward the road. Along the top of the stone bridge we could see German helmets moving. They were bent forward and moved slowly, almost supernaturally, along. As they came off the bridge we saw them. They were bicycle troops. I saw the faces of the first two. They were ruddy and healthy-looking. Their helmets came low down over their foreheads and the side of their faces. Their carbines were clipped to the frame of the bicycles. Stick bombs hung handle down from their belts. Their helmets and their gray uniforms were wet, and they rode easily, looking ahead and to both sides. There were 2, then 4 in line, then 2, then almost a dozen, then another dozen, then one alone. They did not talk, but we could not have heard them because of the noise from the river. They were gone out of sight up the road. "Holy Mary," Imo said. "They were Germans," Piani said. "Those weren't Austrians." "Why isn't there somebody here to stop them?" I said. "Why haven't they blown the bridge up? Why aren't there machine guns along this embankment?" "You tell us, Tenente," Bonello said. I was very angry. "The whole bloody thing is crazy. Down below they blow up a little bridge. Here they leave a bridge on the main road. Where is everybody? Don't they try and stop them at all?" "You tell us, Tenente," Bonello said. I shut up. It was none of my business. All I had to do was to get to Pordenone with 3 ambulances. I had failed at that. All I had to do now was to get to Pordenone. I probably could not even get to Udine. The hell I couldn't. The thing to do was to be calm and not get shot or captured. "Didn't you have a canteen opened?" I asked Piani. He handed it to me. I took a long drink. "We might as well start," I said. "There's no hurry, though. Do you want to eat something?" "This is no place to stay," Bonello said. "All right, we'll start." "Should we keep on this side, out of sight?" "We'll be better off on top. They may come along this bridge, too. We don't want them on top of us before we see them." We walked along the railroad track. On both sides of us stretched the wet plain. Ahead, across the plain, was the hill of Udine. The roofs fell away from the castle on the hill. We could see the campanile and the clock tower. There were many mulberry trees in the fields. Ahead I saw a place where the rails were torn up. The ties had been dug out too and thrown down the embankment. "Down, down," Imo said. We dropped down beside the embankment. There was another group of bicyclists passing along the road. I looked over the edge and saw them go on. "They saw us, but they went on," Imo said. "We'll get killed up there, Tenente," Bonello said. "They don't want us," I said. "They're after something else. We're in more danger if they should come on us suddenly." "I'd rather walk here out of sight," Bonello said. "All right, we'll walk along the tracks." "Do you think we can get through?" Imo asked. "Sure. There aren't very many of them yet. We'll go through in the dark." "What was that staff car doing?" "Christ knows," I said. We kept on up the tracks. Bonello, tired of walking in the mud of the embankment, and came up with the rest of us. The railway moved south away from the highway now, and we could not see what passed along the road. A short bridge over a canal was blown up, but we climbed across on what was left of the span. We heard firing ahead of us. We came up on the railway beyond the canal. It went on straight toward the town across the low fields. We could see the line of the other railway ahead of us. To the north was the main road where we had seen the cyclists. To the south there was a small branch road across the fields with thick trees on each side. I thought we had better cut to the south and work around the town that way and across country toward Campoformio and the main road to the Tagliamento. We could avoid the main line of the retreat by keeping to the secondary roads beyond Udine. I knew there were plenty of side roads across the plain. I started down the embankment. "Come on," I said. We would make for the side road and work to the south of the town. We all started down the embankment. A shot was fired at us from the side road. The bullet went into the mud of the embankment. "Going back," I shouted. I started up the embankment, slipping in the mud. The drivers were ahead of me. I went up the embankment as fast as I could go. 2 more shots came from the thick brush, and Imo, as he was crossing the tracks, lurched, tripped, and fell face down. We pulled him down on the other side and turned him over. "His head ought to be uphill," I said. Piani moved him around. He lay in the mud on the side of the embankment, his feet pointing downhill, breathing blood irregularly. The 3 of us squatted over him in the rain. He was hit low in the back of the neck, and the bullet had ranged upward and come out under the right eye. He died while I was stopping up the 2 holes. Piani laid his head down, wiped at his face with a piece of the emergency dressing, then let it alone. "The blank," he said. "They weren't Germans," I said. "There can't be any Germans over there." "Italians," Piani said, using the word as an epithet. "Italiani." Bonello said nothing. He was sitting beside Imo, not looking at him. Piani picked up Imo's cap where it had rolled down the embankment and put it over his face. He took out his canteen. "Do you want a drink?" Piani handed Bonello the canteen. "No," Bonello said. He turned to me. "That might have happened to us any time on the railway tracks." "No," I said. "It was because we started across the field." Bonello shook his head. "Imo's dead," he said. "Who's dead next, Tenente?" "Where do we go now?" "Those were Italians that shot," I said. "They weren't Germans." "I suppose if they were Germans, they'd have killed all of us," Bonello said. "We are in more danger from Italians than Germans," I said. "The rear guard are afraid of everything. The Germans know what they're after." "You reason it out, Tenente," Bonello said. "Where do we go now?" Piani asked. "We'd better lie up some place till it's dark. If we could get south, we'd be all right." "They'd have to shoot us all to prove they were right the first time," Bonello said. "I'm not going to try them." "We'll find a place to lie up as near to Udine as we can get, and then go through when it's dark." "Let's go then," Bonello said. We went down the north side of the embankment. I looked back. Imo lay in the mud with the angle of the embankment. He was quite small, and his arms were by his side. his puttee-wrapped legs and muddy boots together, his cap over his face. He looked very dead. It was raining. I liked him as well as anyone I ever knew. I had his papers in my pocket, and would write to his family. Ahead across the fields was a farmhouse. There were trees around it, and the farm buildings were built against the house. There was a balcony along the second floor held up by columns. "We'd better keep a little way apart," I said. "I'll go ahead." I started toward the farmhouse. There was a path across the field. Crossing the field, I did not know but that someone would fire on us from the trees near the farmhouse or from the farmhouse itself. I walked toward it, seeing it very clearly. The balcony of the second floor merged into the barn, and there was hay coming out between the columns. The courtyard was of stone blocks, and all the trees were dripping with rain. There was a big empty two-wheeled cart, the shafts tipped high up in the rain. I came to the courtyard, crossed it, and stood under the shelter of the balcony. The door of the house was open, and I went in. Bonello and Piane came in after me. It was dark inside. I went back to the kitchen. There were ashes of a fire on the big open hearth. The pots hung over the ashes, but they were empty. I looked around, but I could not find anything to eat. "We ought to lie up in the barn," I said. "Do you think we could find anything to eat, Piane, and bring it up there?" "I'll look," Piane said. "I'll look too," Bonello said. "All right," I said. "I'll go up and look at the barn." I found a stone stairway that went up from the stable underneath. The stable smelt dry and pleasant in the rain. The cattle were all gone, probably driven off when they left. The barn was half full of hay. There were 2 windows in the roof. One was blocked with boards. The other was a narrow dormer window on the north side. There was a chute so that hay might be pitched down to the cattle. Beams crossed the opening down into the main floor where the hay carts drove in when the hay was hauled in to be pitched up. I heard the rain on the roof and smelled the hay, and when I went down, the clean smell of dried dung in the stable. You could pry a board loose and see out of the south window, down into the courtyard. The other window looked out on the field toward the north. We could get out of either window onto the roof and down, or go down the hay chute if the stairs were impractical. It was a big barn, and we could hide in the hay if we heard anyone. It seemed like a good place. I was sure we could have gotten through to the south if they had not fired on us. It was impossible that there were Germans there. They were coming from the north and down the road from Cividale. They could not have come through from the south. The Italians were even more dangerous. They were frightened and firing on anything they saw. Last night on the retreat, we had heard that there had been many Germans in Italian uniforms mixing with the retreat in the north. I did not believe it. That was one of those things you always heard in the war. It was one of the things the enemy always did to you. You did not know anyone who went over in German uniform to confuse them. Maybe they did, but it sounded difficult. I did not believe the Germans did it. I did not believe they had to. There was no need to confuse our retreat. The size of the army and the fewness of the roads did that. Nobody gave any orders, let alone Germans. Still, they would shoot us for Germans. They shot Aimo. The hay smelled good, and lying in a barn in the hay took away all the years in between. We had lain in hay and talked and shot sparrows with an air rifle when they perched in the triangle cut high up in the wall of the barn. The barn was gone now, and one year they had cut the hemlock woods, and there were only stumps, dried treetops, branches, and fireweed where the woods had been. You could not go back. If you did not go forward, what happened? You never got back to Milan. If you got back to Milan, what happened? I listened to the firing to the north toward Udine. I could hear machine gun firing. There was no shelling. That was something. They must have gotten some troops along the road. I looked down in the half-light of the hay barn and saw Piane standing on the hauling floor. He had a long sausage, a jar of something, and 2 bottles of wine under his arm. "Come up," I said. "There is the ladder." Then I realized that I should help him with the things and went down. I was vague in the head from lying in the hay. I had been nearly asleep. "Where is Bonello?" I asked. "I'll tell you," Piane said. "He went up the ladder. Up on the hay we set the things down." Piane took his knife with the corkscrew and drew the cork on a wine bottle. "They have sealing wax on it," he said. "It must be good." He smiled. "Where's Bonello?" I asked. Piani looked at me. "He went away, Tenente," he said. "He wanted to be a prisoner." I did not say anything. "He was afraid we would get killed." I held the bottle of wine and did not say anything. "You see, we don't believe in the war anyway, Tenente." "Why didn't you go?" I asked. "I did not want to leave you." "Where did he go?" "I don't know, Tenente. He went away." "All right," I said. "Will you cut the sausage?" Piani looked at me in the half-light. "I cut it while we were talking," he said. "We sat in the hay and ate the sausage and drank the wine. It must have been wine they had saved for a wedding. It was so old that it was losing its color." "You look out this window, Luigi," I said. "I'll go look out the other window." We had each been drinking out of one of the bottles, and I took my bottle with me, and went over and lay flat on the hay and looked out the narrow window at the wet country. I do not know what I expected to see, but I did not see anything except the fields and the bare mulberry trees, and the rain falling. I drank the wine, and it did not make me feel good. They had kept it too long, and it had gone to pieces and lost its quality and color. I watched it get dark outside. The darkness came very quickly. It would be a black night with the rain. When it was dark, there was no use watching any more. So I went over to Piani. He was lying asleep, and I did not wake him, but sat down beside him for a while. He was a big man, and he slept heavily. After a while I woke him, and we started. That was a very strange night. I do not know what I had expected. Death, perhaps, and shooting in the dark and running. But nothing happened. We waited, lying flat, beyond the ditch along the main road while a German battalion passed. Then, when they were gone, we crossed the road and went on to the north. We were very close to Germans twice in the rain, but they did not see us. We got past the town to the north without seeing any Italians. Then after a while came on the main channels of the retreat, and walked all night toward the Tagliamento. I had not realized how gigantic the retreat was. The whole country was moving, as well as the army. We walked all night, making better time than the vehicles. My leg ached and I was tired, but we made good time. It seemed so silly for Bonello to have decided to be taken prisoner. There was no danger. We had walked through 2 armies without incident. If Imo had not been killed, there would never have seemed to be any danger. No one had bothered us when we were in plain sight along the railway. The killing came suddenly and unreasonably. I wondered where Bonello was. "How do you feel, Tenente?" Piani asked. We were going along the side of a road crowded with vehicles and troops. "Fine. I'm tired of this walking." "Well, all we have to do is walk now. We don't have to worry." "Bonello was a fool." "He was a fool, all right." "What will you do about him, Tenente?" "I don't know." "Can't you just put him down as taken prisoner?" "I don't know." "You see, if the war went on, they would make bad trouble for his family." "The war won't go on," a soldier said. "We're going home. The war is over." "Everybody's going home." "We're all going home." "Come on, Tenente," Piani said. He wanted to get past them. "Tenente? Who's a tenente?" "Abbasso gli ufficiali. Down with the officers." Piani took me by the arm. "I'd better call you by your name," he said. "They might try and make trouble. They've shot some officers." We worked up past them. "I won't make a report that will make trouble for his family." I went on with our conversation. "If the war is over, it makes no difference," Piani said, "but I don't believe it's over. It's too good that it should be over." "We'll know pretty soon," I said. "I don't believe it's over. They all think it's over, but I don't believe it." "Viva la pace!" a soldier shouted out. "We're going home." "It would be fine if we all went home," Piani said. "Wouldn't you like to go home?" "Yes." "We'll never go. I don't think it's over." "Andiamo a casa!" a soldier shouted. "They throw away the rifles," Piani said. "They take them off and drop them down while they're marching. Then they shout." "They ought to keep their rifles." "They think if they throw away the rifles, they can't make them fight." In the dark and the rain, making our way along the side of the road, I could see that many of the troops still had their rifles. They stuck up above the capes. "What brigade are you?" an officer called out. "Brigata di Pace," someone shouted. "Peace Brigade." The officer said nothing. What does he say? What does the officer say? Down with the officer! Viva la pace! Come on, Piani said. We passed 2 British ambulances, abandoned in a block of vehicles. They're from Gorizia, Piani said. I know the cars. They got further than we did. They started earlier. I wonder where the drivers are. Up ahead, probably. The Germans have stopped outside Udine, I said. These people will all get across the river. Yes, Piani said. That's why I think the war will go on. The Germans could come on, I said. I wonder why they don't come on. I don't know. I don't know anything about this kind of war. They have to wait for their transport, I suppose. I don't know, Piani said. Alone he was much gentler. When he was with the others, he was a very rough talker. Are you married, Luigi? You know I'm married. Is that why you did not want to be a prisoner? That is one reason. Are you married, Tenente? No, neither is Bonello. You can't tell anything by a man's being married, but I should think a married man would want to get back to his wife, I said. I would be glad to talk about wives. Yes. How are your feet? They're sore enough. Before daylight, we reached the bank of the Tagliamento and followed down along the flooded river to the bridge where all the traffic was crossing. We ought to be able to hold at this river, Piani said. In the dark, the flood looked high. The water swirled and it was wide. The wooden bridge was nearly 3/4 of a mile across, and the river, that usually ran in narrow channels in the wide stony bed far below the bridge, was close under the wooden planking. We went along the bank and then worked our way into the crowd that were crossing the bridge. Crossing slowly in the rain a few feet above the flood, pressed tight in the crowd, the box of an artillery caisson just ahead, I looked over the side and watched the river. Now that we could not go on our own pace, I felt very tired. There was no exhilaration in crossing the bridge. I wondered what it would be like if a plane bombed it in the daytime. Piani, I said. Here I am, Tenente. He was a little ahead in the jam. No one was talking. They were all trying to get across as soon as they could, thinking only of that. We were almost across. At the far end of the bridge there were officers and carabinieri standing on both sides, flashing lights. I saw them silhouetted against the skyline. As we came close to them, I saw one of the officers point to a man in the column. A carabiniere went in after him and came out holding the man by the arm. He took him away from the road. We came almost opposite them. The officers were scrutinizing everyone in the column, sometimes speaking to each other, going forward to flash a light in someone's face. They took someone else out just before we came opposite. I saw the man. He was a lieutenant colonel. I saw the stars in the box on his sleeve as they flashed a light on him. His hair was gray and he was short and fat. The carabinieri pulled him in behind the line of officers. As we came opposite, I saw 1 or 2 of them look at me. Then one pointed at me and spoke to the carabinieri. I saw the carabinieri start for me, come through the edge of the column toward me, then felt him take me by the collar. "What's the matter with you?" I said, and hit him in the face. I saw his face under the hat, upturned mustaches and blood coming down his cheek. Another one dove in toward us. "What's the matter with you?" I said. He did not answer. He was watching a chance to grab me. I put my arm behind me to loosen my pistol. "Don't you know you can't touch an officer?" The other one grabbed me from behind and pulled my arm up so that it twisted in the socket. I turned with him, and the other one grabbed me around the neck. I kicked his shins and got my left knee into his groin. "Shoot him if he resists," I heard someone say. What's the meaning of this? I tried to shout, but my voice was not very loud. They had me at the side of the road now. "Shoot him if he resists," an officer said. "Take him over back." "Who are you?" "You'll find out." "Who are you?" "Battle police," another officer said. "Why don't you ask me to step over instead of having one of these airplanes grab me?" They did not answer. They did not have to answer. They were battle police. "Take him back there with the others," the first officer said. "You see, he speaks Italian with an accent." "So do you, you blank," I said. "Take him back with the others," the first officer said. They took me down behind the line of officers below the road toward a group of people in a field by the river bank. As we walked toward them, shots were fired. I saw flashes of the rifles and heard the reports. We came up to the group. There were 4 officers standing together, with a man in front of them with the carabiniere on each side of him. A group of men were standing guarded by carabinieri. 4 other carabinieri stood near the questioning officers, leaning on their carbines. They were wide-hatted carabinieri. The 2 who had me shoved me in with a group waiting to be questioned. I looked at the man the officers were questioning. He was the fat, gray-haired little lieutenant colonel they had taken out of the column. The questioners had all the efficiency, coldness, and command of themselves of Italians who were firing and not being fired on. Your brigade? He told them. Regiment? He told them. Why are you not with your regiment? He told them. Do you not know that an officer should be with his troops? He did. That was all. Another officer spoke. It is you and such as you that have let the barbarians onto the sacred soil of the fatherland. I beg your pardon, said the lieutenant colonel. It is because of treachery such as yours that we have lost the fruits of victory. Have you ever been in a retreat? The lieutenant colonel asked. Italy should never retreat. We stood there in the rain and listened to this. We were facing the officers, and the prisoners stood in front and a little to one side of us. If you are going to shoot me, the lieutenant colonel said, please shoot me at once without further questioning. The questioning is stupid. He made the sign of the cross. The officers spoke together. One wrote something on a pad of paper. Abandon his troops, ordered to be shot, he said. 2 carabinieri took the lieutenant colonel to the river bank. He walked in the rain, an old man with his hat off, a carabiniere on either side. I did not watch them shoot him, but I heard the shots. They were questioning someone else. This officer, too, was separated from his troops. He was not allowed to make an explanation. He cried when they read the sentence from the pad of paper, and they were questioning another when they shot him. They made a point of being intent on questioning the next man while the man who had been questioned before was being shot. In this way there was obviously nothing they could do about it. I did not know whether I should wait to be questioned or make a break now. I was obviously a German in Italian uniform. I saw how their minds worked. If they had minds and if they worked. They were all young men and they were saving their country. The Second Army was being reformed beyond the tagliamento. They were executing officers of the rank of major and above who were separated from their troops. They were also dealing summarily with German agitators in Italian uniform. They wore steel helmets. Only 2 of us had steel helmets. Some of the carabinieri had them. The other carabinieri wore the wide hat. Airplanes, we called them. We stood in the rain and were taken out one at a time to be questioned and shot. So far they had shot everyone they had questioned. The questioners had that beautiful detachment and devotion to stern justice of men dealing in death without being in any danger of it. They were questioning a full colonel of a line regiment. 3 more officers had just been put in with us. Where was his regiment? I looked at the carabinieri. They were looking at the newcomers. The others were looking at the colonel. I ducked down, pushed between 2 men, and ran for the river, my head down. I tripped at the edge and went in with a splash. The water was very cold, and I stayed under as long as I could. I could feel the current swirl me, and I stayed under until I thought I could never come up. The minute I came up, I took a breath and went down again. It was easy to stay under with so much clothing and my boots. When I came up the second time, I saw a piece of timber ahead of me and reached it and held on with one hand. I kept my head behind it and did not even look over it. I did not want to see the bank. There were shots when I ran and shots when I came up the first time. I heard them when I was almost above water. There were no shots now. The piece of timber swung in the current, and I held it with one hand. I looked at the bank. It seemed to be going by very fast. There was much wood in the stream. The water was very cold. We passed the brush of an island above the water. I held on to the timber with both hands and let it take me along. The shore was out of sight now.